Congratulations to LSD Sarek for winning the giveaway from last video. I'll be hosting a new giveaway, which will be linked at the end of the video. Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Banachi. Today, we'll be going over the ultimate guide for Bladers Rebirth. This will cover 3 main categories: beginning, intermediate, and advanced. Beginning is levels 100 to 500, intermediate is 500 to 1000, and advanced is 1000 plus. Although these levels contain major sections in between them, it's really good if you watch the full video, because some things in the earlier levels are common knowledge and very important to know for later levels. Before we go forward, it's important to note that this guide is based on after the big update, but before the big update that should occur within a week. This guide is accurate as of July 21st, 2024, but it shouldn't have any major changes with the new update coming forward. It should still be fairly accurate. I also want to note that although this guide covers many major things, there's too many nuances to cover all in one video. But I'll be making a series later called In-Depth Guide. These will cover things like traits, parts, and fragments more in depth than I can cover in this guide alone. Let's get started. When you first spawn in, you'll be right here. You'll be next to this vending machine, and you'll be next to some level 1 rocks. And you should have a level 1 unnamed beyblade. Feel free to name your beyblade if you go into customize, and you can even change your colors right here in the right panel. We're going to name this Tester. Now, if you go over here and you press your beyblade, this is where you'll see it. Now, you'll see attached states and 2 points. Before you assign them, I'm going to go over different builds that you can do for these main assignments. Attack increases your damage per hit and increases the damage of your skills. Defense reduces any incoming damage, which allows you to tank more hits. Stamina increases your health, allowing you to spin for longer. And speed increases your movement speed and increases damage of direct attacks, which ties into some spirit stuff later. Now, in my opinion, the best starter bay is attack, but there's a caveat to that. Defense is a really powerful build, and stamina is also very good. It has some decent mid-range gear that you can get before you get to late game. So there really isn't a wrong choice. Even speed has gotten some late game support, but I wouldn't really suggest using a speed build quite yet. For your main first build, I do usually recommend attack. But defense is amazing as well because it can double as attack. For the purpose of this videos, I'll be talking in specifically attack, but I'll go over options for defense and stamina and alternative options for each. Here are your 3 parts. You have a top, a middle, and a bottom. Having a set bonus will give you 15% extra power if you have all 3 of the same type. If you have 2, it's 10%. If you have 1, there isn't. This is the area where a fragment will go. Fragments are parts that you can attach to your bay to get an extra skill out of them. And spirit is one of the main stat points of your beyblade. Here you should have 3 spins. I have 4 because I've purchased them before. But for the purpose of this video, if you want an attack, it's really good if you get Miyamoto or Demon. If you don't get either of these, then just stick with generic or shadow. If you chose to go defense, you'll want to get Templar, or Simba is okay as well. Templar would be a better pick even though it's the same rarity. If you're lucky enough to get Judge, Buddha, or Dryad, these are all very good options for defense as well. If you end up rolling anything in the legendary or unique category, definitely keep it and just change your build to fit one of those. They're extremely rare, and it's better for you to just build around these than try to change it later. If you end up getting Dragon, Glass, or Wizard, change your build to go to attack. If you end up getting Saint, this is one of the few that actually you don't really care about. You can re-roll it to whatever you want. Now, if you get a unique, absolutely change your build. Monarch is a perfect attack type build as it gives 85% additional attack and 40% additional stamina. This is massive benefits. If you end up getting Unbreakable, definitely switch your Beyblade to Unbreakable. But these are 0.1% chances. This is only going over if you're really lucky. For the purpose of this video, we'll roll 3 times and see what we get. You know, Shadow is fine. I understand that these higher percentages are 5%, so it's unlikely that I'll get them. Feel free to do whatever you want though, you can always change it later, but it is 500k a reroll and that's very expensive. Down here is a crystal, and you won't need to worry about that until we get to the intermediate level. For attack, we're going to focus mainly on attack and stamina, as even though we need attack, we also need a bit of health to get by. This is true also for defense. You're going to want a majority in defense and a little bit in stamina, usually a 70-30 or 80-20 split. Don't worry about speed until we get to later levels. If you're choosing stamina, then just put all your points into stamina. So now, I want you to grind this part until you get to around level 30 or 40. Now, we're going to go to the Bladers shop. This is going to be where you're spending most of your time. In here, you'll see vending machines, hoverboards, and a workbench. You don't really need to focus on this guy for right now. It's not going to be really worth your time. Hoverboards allow you to go faster. For example, mine is the most advanced you can get, and it's quite fast. It allows you to get places much quicker than just walking. This will be a good investment later, but for now, I just want you to focus on parts. In these vending machines, there are a bunch of different parts, so it's easy to get overwhelmed. But I'll give you some good options for beginners. If you're going with attack, one of the better starting out attack style parts are going to be the Seraphim set. When you're purchasing this set, it'll be 10,000 to spend, and you're also most likely to get Diablo. No need to sell these parts though, you can save them up and use them as crafting fodder, which I'll explain in a little bit. If you chose to go defense, the Kulkin set is a very good set, but so is the Glipnir set. This is the main one that I'd propose that you use as defense, as it scales really well with levels, more so than Seraphim, and it's definitely one of the better beginning type Beyblade sets. You won't find much better until you get to later levels in the advanced. This is very much worth investing into. If you're a stamina type user, the Cygnus Top is one of the better stamina parts that you can get, especially early game. If you combine this with some of the attack parts, like the Seraphim middle and bottom, you'll get a very good stamina build. You'll have access to Whirlwind, an ability that scales off of stamina, Thunderbolt, something that stuns but also does a decent amount of damage. You'll also get, when using Cygnus Top, access to Regenerate. If you choose to go attack, you're going to want to get the Seraphim middle and bottom, but for top, you're going to want to try to get this Dragoon Top. It gives you access to Dragon Strike, which is one of the best attack style mechanics in the game. There is, however, a better part than this Dragoon Top. If you go over here behind spawn and through this waterfall, there's actually a hidden cavern with some very unique tops. In here, there's something called the Valkyrie Top. This gives you significantly more stars into your attack stat, and also has access to the Dragon Strike. The only thing is, it's twice as expensive. This part, however, is very much worth it, and you can find some on the aftermarket in the Discord server for relatively cheap. Over here is the upgrade fusion machine. This is going to be your bread and butter for the rest of the game. You can combine 2 or 3 of the same type parts to get a higher tier. When you're using parts, a higher tiered part means more power. More power means a better Beyblade, but also increased attack and defense. This is extremely important for your Beyblade going forward because it's the sense of progression that your Beyblade gets with each level. For example, if I have 2 level 1 Glipnirs, and I combine 3 of these, I'll get a level 2. But you can also do 2 of these and a 3rd random, and it'll guarantee the majority top. Here, I just crafted a tier 2 Glipnir top. This is going to be great for defense. Now, something you also need to worry about more in later levels, like intermediate and advanced, are traits. Traits are things added to parts and fragments to increase certain aspects of your Beyblade's power. So, for example, Agile, higher tier that the Agile trait is on, increases by a certain percent for each level. So, an Agile 4 on a fragment gives you 20% more Beyblade speed. There are also ones like Tanky, which increase your base defense, Healthy, which increase your base's stamina, and Strong, which increases your Beyblade's attack. There are also more uncommon ones like Enchanted, Turbo, and Armor. And the most rare of all are legendary traits, which are Resistance and Powerful. Now, legendary traits are super uncommon, and it's very hard to get legendary traits on parts that are high tier. So normally, it's better to just try to get tiers that are commons on your parts to upgrade that specific bay's needs. If you're running a defense bay, it's best to try to get healthy or specifically tanky on your parts. This will increase your base defense, which when using alternative angle or other defense scaling skills, will increase your damage output and also increase the damage reduction that your Beyblade has on attacks. If your Beyblade is using attack, it's good to use strong traits that increase your blade's attack. It's also good to use healthy or sometimes, in some cases, agile. Overall though, it's usually better to use attack. For stamina bays, you're really only looking for healthy because all of your skills are dependent on your healthy trait. Unlike attack and defense, you're not trying to balance out your stat spread between two different areas, you're just focusing on one. When you're crafting, it's good to take at least 2 parts of the craft that you want with the traits that you want. For example, if I wanted a healthy Nexus top, I could use a healthy and a tanky if I was trying to build defense, and then I would find something else with the same tier but worth less than these 2 parts since they're rare, but has the same trait that I want. So instead of looking for like this Hydra top, which is also quite rare, I'd look for some other level 1 like this Achilles top. This would guarantee me a tier 3 Nexus top, while also having a 66% chance of getting one of these 2. Ideally, I'd use an Achilles top or some other top with a trait that I'd like, as it's worth less than these 2, and it's way easier to get. Fragments are also an extremely important part of your build. The fragment that you pick depends on the build that you have and also the availability of the fragments you have in your inventory. Here is a list of what I consider to be the best attacking fragments from the best to the worst. Although they're all extremely effective, this is more of just like a difference between how you'd use them. After that, here are the ones that I consider to be the best defense style bays, depending on your parts obviously. But for this point of this video, I'm talking about the specific builds that I've recommended for early, mid, and late game. And then these are the fragments that I consider to be the best for stamina. Again, from the build that I've recommended previously. All of these fragment choices require different levels. For example, if you get a Blizzard fragment, that's going to be level 345, but if you have access to chains, that's only 215. One of the best early game fragments you can get is Revolving Strike. It actually upgrades later and can be used on a stam build, and as it says there, it has a skill evolution which evolves into something called Moonlight Strike. This is very good for attack and stamina bays, so I consider this to be one of your top priorities when you're early level is to get a Revolving Strike. It's also available on one of the first bosses that you get, so it's relatively easily attainable. Dragon Strike requires level 450, which is generally why I recommend using the Dragoon or Valkyrie top until you're around level 450 or 500. You won't be getting much access to Dragon Strike fragments anyway unless you grind it out because they're actually rather expensive. Over here is the seller item, where you can sell extra items, but it's good to keep them around just because you can use them as crafting fodder. After you get your hands on some early game parts, or even if you can't afford them yet, just keep that in mind for later. Find these parts until you're level 30, then go over here, and these are where you'll find level 30. When you see something gold like this, it means that's enchanted, and this will give you up to 5 times more XP than the normal ones do. Whenever you see these, it's a good idea to just break them. Now, NPCs are going to be your biggest way of leveling up. They're faster than breaking objects. They give out battle points, which can be used for high tier parts later in the game, and they give you more XP and even cash when you defeat them. This is where you're going to be grinding until you're level 70, at which point you'll just go up the street over here. Over here, you'll see trainers from level 60 to 95. You're going to be breaking these metal parts, and you're going to be going around in a circle until you get to level 175. After you get to level 175, you're going to reset to the beginning of the game, and I want you to go and fight this boss. You're going to be overleveled for this fight. Boss fights are going to be your bread and butter for the game. They're the best to grind, as they give the most XP and the most money and the most BP, but also their drops are very valuable of dropping auras. Auras are important as they are one of the few effects that go across all your Beyblades and they add extra percent of power. Tier 1 gives 10%, Tier 2 gives 20, and so on and so on. For example, here I got 200,000 XP, 15,000 cash, 30 BP, and a Mirage Fragment. This boss is one of the worst ones in the game. Reset yourself again and head across the water. This will be your new grinding spot. Here, there are level 180 blood rocks and level 150 trainers all along the skate park. Grind the trainers as much as you can, but while they're on cooldown, just break some rocks over here and just keep grinding them like this. You'll do one, you'll come over here, do another, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and then you'll just do some rocks while you go back here. You'll be grinding this out till you're approximately level 300. After you get to level 300, go across the water and fight this boss. This boss gives you 60 BP, 530,000 XP, a whole chunk of cash. From the second boss, or from the blood rocks, you'll come over here and you'll go in between this gap of the WBBA tower. Here, you'll climb up this ladder, and this is where you'll find your next grinding area. Up here are the blue steel rocks. The blue steel rocks are level 300, and the trainers are level 350 to 400 over there. This is where you're going to be spending a decent chunk of your time until you get to level 475. While you're grinding and you get to level 350, come down here from the WBBA tower and fight this boss, Gustavo Cruz. This guy gives you 105 BP, 60,000 cash, and 1 million XP. He also has the chance of dropping Dragon Strike Fragment, which is one of the best attacks in the game for attack types. He also has a chance of dropping Spirit Rolls, which sell for about 1 million each, and also important if you rolled a bad spirit. Now that you're level 475, head down to the beach over here. This is where you'll find stuff from level 450 to level 550 and NPCs between that same area. This is where you're going to grind until you're level 500, but not just till you're level 500, till you also have 2 million in cash. Before we get into the intermediate section, this is an important piece of information. The reason why you're grinding for 1.8 million to 2 million cash is because of crystals. Crystals are an item in the game that spawn every 2 hours in a public lobby, and are required for level 500. Once you get to level 500, you can equip a crystal, and it gives your Beyblade the legendary title status, which allows you to double your Beyblade stat roll. If you look here, you can see that my defense black stat is 2 times higher, roughly, than my gray stat. This is mainly because of my crystal, but also because of my parts having a set bonus and such. Crystals are the biggest jump in power in the game that you will ever get. Everything else is a linear progression. These crystals on the Discord server cost around 1.5 million to 2 million CT. CT means cover tax. When you're trading, there's a 10% cash tax on all trades that include cash. 10% of 1.5 million is somewhere along the lines of 1.7 million. This is why it's good to get between that range, because most people sell for around 2 million CT, but don't take it unless it's 1.5 million CT. There are plenty of people willing to sell their crystals because they're so easy to get. Once you have a crystal, go to the bottom of your inventory, go to it and press use. This will equip the crystal to your current active Beyblade. There are actually 3 different kinds of crystals. There are regular, normal T5s, lightnings, and nature. Lightning crystals are yellow, and they give a boost to your damage and speed. This is something you won't need to worry about until you're in the advanced level, so it's actually better to sell these crystals than to keep them. The early game advancement you get from selling the crystal is more impactful than actually having the crystal and saving it into your advanced level. Normal crystals sell for 1.5 to 2 million. Lightning crystals sell for 30 million CT. and natures sell for 80 million CT. This is why it's so good to sell those crystals early game, because you can get access to tier 5 sets of high level sets, but that's if you're really lucky. Lightning and nature crystals are significantly more rare than normals. And welcome to the intermediate. This is between the levels of 500 to 1000. It'll be roughly very similar to the previous grinding experience you've had, but you'll have twice the amount of power that you initially had before this level. Now that you're level 500 and you have that crystal equipped, I want you to go back to the skate park with the blood rocks. I want you to challenge Alejandro Ortiz. This guy is the level 500 boss, and now that you have that crystal and you're double your stats, you should be able to defeat him extremely easily. Even though he doesn't have a lot of the good frags, he does have a T1 Flame Aura, which is a low chance drop, but is good if you get it. It's worth about 5 million, but also it adds about 10% power to your build when you have it equipped. He also gives out more XP than the other bosses, and it's good in the early games to circle around each boss and just farm them while you're also farming the place that you're at. If you go into the Crystal Caverns over here, you'll find level 650 water rocks. It is actually relatively beneficial for you to break these, but it's also completely normal. If you're level 550 plus, go over to this ice area and start breaking these rocks that are level 650 and challenging these trainers once you get to an appropriate level. Grind these rocks until you're level 750, at which point you cross back over to the river and head towards this giant Odyssey building. Over here, there's a bunch of small ghost tiers that are around level 750. Grind these until you're level 800 or 825, and then go over here to this pit. Drop down, inside you'll find the Darkstone Cavern. In here there's level 900 molten rocks and a bunch of level 800 to even 1000 level Darkstones. In here there's a bunch of trainers and they're evenly spaced out, so if you have cooldown you can just completely disregard the rocks and fight these. If you don't have the Game Pass cooldown, it's completely fine. All you do is do the round of trainers, farm these rocks until the trainer's cooldown goes down. During this intermediate level, you're now gaining a decent amount of money for grinding all these parts. And once you're level 1000, you can even go and challenge these NPCs, although these NPCs are harder than the other ones. This is where I'm going to explain the Odyssey Tower. The reason why I'm putting this in intermediate is you can actually start to grind this tower while you're only level 1000. When you're grinding this tower, it costs 500,000 to battle this tower per time. The battles start at level 450, but gradually go up 50 levels every time you go up a floor. When you defeat these guys, they give you a decent amount of XP just like normal ones, but they don't give you any cash. You are, however, able to cash out to get these tickets. Tickets can buy you high-level gear, like a Tronador or Angel parts, and also get you high-tier fragments and even better, more focused builds in the future. In my opinion, though, the Atronador and Angel are absolutely the best ticket. Atronador is still one of the best attack type sets in the game, and this is what you really want to try to grind out. Angel is one of the best stand builds in the game, so generally what you're doing to make a lot of money when you first start out is you're grinding out an Atronador set, and at the meantime, when you're rolling for these parts and you get Angel parts, you're saving them and you're using fodder to craft them up until you get a T5. T5 traitless Angel sets sell for roughly 28 million PT right now. This will really help you push up your Atronador set until you get it to a T5. T5 Atronador is one of the most dominant attack style sets in the game. The Angel is one of the best stand builds in the game, so if you have a stand build, you're actually doing the opposite. Atronador sets are actually worth more, so if you're building Stam and you're trying to build an Angel set, just keep the Angel set and sell it on the market for 40 million CT. If you're building defense, you're still buying Lipnir parts. Like I said, this is one of the best forward-thinking builds that you can get as a defense builder, but all you're doing is just trying to get better and better traits each time. The traits that you should be prioritizing specifically now is legendary traits like resistance, but specifically powerful, tanky, and healthy. You don't need attack traits, you don't need agile traits. Those are the main ones you're looking for. Over here is the vanity machine. You don't really need to worry about this, but it's a cool little thing that allows you to use the visuals of one with the stats of another. I actually use this on one of my major attack style bays, as I use an Atronador top, but with the vanity of a Slicer, which is a BP exclusive part from the PvP world. Once you've hit level 1000, head over here where the giant swirling tornado is, where you were grinding level 650, and this is where the advanced tutorial begins. Welcome to the advanced level. This is level 1000 plus. You'll have noticed that once you hit level 1000, your leveling has gone down significantly. This is because each level requires almost 20 million XP to level up. You can counteract this by using something like a Bronze Essence. Bronze Essence are attained from the final boss, and between the levels of 999 and 1500, for the duration of 30 minutes, your EXP is boosted by 12 to 15 times. This allows you to have a normal pace of level grinding when you're grinding the NPCs up top. Otherwise, it's good to match these Bronze Essence or just regular grinding with 2 times EXP weekends, and if you have Robux, a personal 2 times EXP, which does stack with the global EXP modifier on weekends. Once you get through the portal, you'll see a host of extremely high level trainers all the way going up to level 2000. The boss himself is one of the best people to grind. He has the best upper tiers that you can find for grinding, and he gives the highest level rewards from any trainer and the most amount of XP from any trainer, even level 2000. It's even one of the highest chances of getting an aura from any boss. When I first started out, I was grinding metal willpower auras on the bosses, and I was able to craft all the way up to a T4 aura, just from grinding him alone. There is also the chance of getting a Forsaken aura. This is one of the most expensive auras in the game, and also one of the coolest looking as well, although metal willpower is also extremely cool. Bronze Essence is going to be the main way that you level up past this level. Bronze Essence sell for about 7 to 10 million CT each, and when activated, they give you 30 minutes of times 10 to 15. This allows you to grind out levels much faster than you're stuck at level 1000, but it has a hard cap of level 1500. Here you'll see that he gives you 300 BP, 175,000 money, and almost 4 million XP. When you have a Bronze Essence active, the best way to train a route, if you're a lower level, like around a level 1000 to 1100, is just along this string of people right here. They're almost all level 1300 or below, and they give you the most amount of XP while still being able to fight them in a timely manner. While you're level 1000 and you're working to get your Beyblade to level 1500, there isn't any major difference between power groups. What you're really focusing on is getting a better traded set, like healthy, and working up your inventory to get more valuable items. While you're doing this, you'll notice that your BP has gone up a lot, and we'll move on to the PvP world, but we'll discuss stuff later. For the main part, you're just grinding here until you're level 1500 with different Bronze Essence that you're kind of just hanging out with. If you're using an Atronador build, you're actually able to challenge significantly higher levels. Once you get to level 1250, you may be able to beat this guy relatively easily, in which case, instead of that line over there, you'll be fighting in this specific area right here. This ranges between 1250 to 1750, struggling. There's also level 1000s along this line. These guys are extremely easy, and you should be able to at least beat these guys. Now that you've built up at least 300,000 BP over to the PvP world, you may have checked out the PvP world earlier, which is completely fine. It's a good place to go to look for good trades and other things. It's actually located in the beach biome, right here on the travel. Let's head there now, and I'll show you about the parts and the people around. Here, you'll see a lot of these different challenges and a bunch of people wanting to get into fights. But if you go across through this middle dome, you'll find the Bay X area. This is where you can check the leaderboards and the top clans, but also get exclusive battle point parts like the Spectre set. Spectre is one of the most dominant defense style base sets in the entire game. It has some of the best stat blocks, and significantly better than Glipnir or Titan. These parts are extremely rare and extremely expensive. They also cost 5,000 BP per roll, which doesn't sound like much, but when you're trying to get a T5 set, it can be quite expensive. There's also parts over here which you should relatively ignore. They're not very good. Over here, you can actually spin for auras. These auras aren't really worth it in my opinion, as you have the chance of getting a T1 for 50,000 BP. Change, but if you can't get auras, or for some reason you are unable to, from grinding bosses, you can also just guarantee yourself one here or in the Odyssey Tower. Although, in my opinion, the auras found in the Odyssey Tower vastly outstrip the ones that you'll get here besides besides Nebulous Vampire Aura, although that is the rarest. Fuck. The PvP fragments in this area are also quite good besides Flicker Dance. Flameclaw and Parry are two of some of the best attack style ones, while Parry is good for pretty much any build. And that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you come back to look at it and make sure that you're doing all your grinding right and making sure that you have the most optimal training. I appreciate you coming to the channel. And the new giveaway code right here, you can also join the Discord to claim your giveaway. It's a nice and chill community where you can ask questions or just hang out and have a good time. I host weekly money giveaways, and I hope you'll come and join. But I'll see you guys in the next one.